Now we move on to someone who's been instrumental in helping us raise funds every year at WiT. After 30 years with Accor, where she was last Deputy CEO of Asia Pacific, she's found new life after hospitality and is now a partner with an Australia-based VC fund. Please welcome Louise Daley, partner, Future Now Ventures. Hello, Louise.
Hi, Hoon. How are you?
I'm good. Good to have you back in Singapore after nearly half a year away in Sydney.
I know, it's nice to be back.
Yeah. Isn't it good to see those kids in Zumba so happy and smiling, in that video? So how does it feel to be back? Feels good in semi-lockdown again, despite that fact?
Well, I arrived back on the 25th of April and I was so happy because I got vaccinated on the 29th of April. So for me, it was really exciting to be back. But in fact, yeah, okay, being in lockdown's not so exciting, or semi-lockdown. But in Australia, when I was there in Sydney, we had a couple of sort of semi-lockdowns anyway. So this is, it's a little bit of a roller coaster. We've got to get used to it for a while. And there are worse places to be than Singapore.
Yeah, totally. I think you've also returned transformed. Like, you look different, Louise. New role. New life, new industry. So there is life after 30 years at Accor and hospitality. Huh?
I'm not allowed to say it's a better life, but it's no, not at all. I mean, it's funny, right? After 30 years in one company, but for in a way, it wasn't like one company. It's like I changed roles every 3 or 4 years anyway. So it was sort of a little bit like VC world. But I got the opportunity and the luxury of moving around with Accor geographically, changing roles. So yeah, it didn't feel like one place. Transitioning from hospitality to VC. Probably the last 3 or 4 years with Accor, I was working particularly with the global disruption and growth team that had, we acquired or invested in about 12 to 15 small, digital or tech companies. So I felt like I was part of a VC there anyway. So it wasn't such a difficult transition. Probably the biggest change is going from such a big team in Accor, so in Asia Pacific. I mean, it was a massive team, right? Going to a relatively small team where we're 10 people. So that's the biggest difference, probably.
Right. So, so Future Now Ventures is on the website, is described as a specialized investment firm focusing on fast growth companies, developing cloud, mobile, and enterprise tech services. Huge, a very diverse portfolio, very focused on enterprise tech, right? So, So how will your hospitality and travel experience help this fund, or are you looking outside hospitality and travel right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, just because my background's in hospitality and travel, that is not really the focus of the fund. So there's two components to Future Now. There's Future Now Ventures, which is a sort of private office of the founder, John Orrick. And then there's Future Now Capital, which is the actual fund, so about 100 million in capital raised for investment. And the areas that we're looking to invest are pretty much the known themes at the moment around data, business intelligence platforms, compliance, security. It's not a lot around remote working, so it's not hospitality specifically. We're doing some interesting work around frontline workers and how to bring the benefits of they'll have a handset. How do we bring the benefits of the content to them? And so just to expand a little bit, I guess, on Future Now and Future Now Capital, it's not just we're not just working on enterprise software or investing in enterprise software. It's specifically enterprise software that is on or migratable to Microsoft. So it's a little bit of a narrower lens. And so a lot of the work we do closely with Microsoft. And that frontline worker piece is something that they're very, very focused on. and it's centered more around the Teams product. So,
Okay.
So we put growth capital into the independent software vendors that we invest in to help them scale. Yeah.
So the ultimate destination is a migration to Microsoft. So what boxes does a startup have to tick to get your interest? So give me three things that they have to tick.
Well, they have to be a scale-up rather than a startup. So a product that's been monetized, so it has clients that are paying for it. We look for around, at least a minimum of 10 clients, hopefully across a couple of different verticals or a couple of different use cases. At least 1 million in ARR or annual recurring revenue, and that revenue is in, so it's not services revenue, it's recurring product revenue.
Okay, and you said and you said the fund was about 100 million, am I right?
That's correct. Yep. So 100 million.
Okay.
We're halfway through the raise, and expect to be finished fundraising by about September, but we've already started investing.
Okay, so now let's dig into some verticals that I know that you've, if even before this, you were keeping your eye on. One is food tech, for example. What would you bet on? Enterprise or consumer? Or any new startup that has caught your eye?
Probably more around an enterprise. What would I personally invest in versus what would Future Now invest in? So definitely enterprise. I do think it's the less sort of sexy side, I guess, of venture capital. The consumer side tends to be more interesting. The brands resonate with the consumers and customers, but enterprise is for me, I'm not saying safer, but it can be more complex, longer road, more opportunity. So what are we seeing? As I said, probably the places we're looking most and some of the most interesting stuff we are seeing is around mobile and remote. So remote working doesn't necessarily have to be in far-flung places. Remote working can be 10 minutes from the office in your own home. So it's whatever is facilitating that remote working, and that ties in very closely to compliance. So that's the sort of stuff we're seeing. For me, around food and beverage, maybe. What am I seeing? A lot around payments, right? And enterprise. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just on the actual transaction component, but anything that interacts and integrates with payments and is fueled by payments. What I'm seeing, there's an argument about who actually has the content, and is the content the restaurant, is the content the meal, is the content the photos that go with the meal? There's a very broad brush of content, but for me, I think the technology that underpins the operation of a restaurant becomes critical in food and beverage. One of the ones I've seen and still stay in touch with is an investment that we made at Accor called Bizon. And during COVID, they started off as an electronic point of sale, and during COVID, they continued to expand their product. And so now they are more of a restaurant platform or food and beverage platform. So they have POS, inventory, payments, order and pay, loyalty. And I think that's, a great tech play now. And it's what customers will be looking for, or clients will be looking for.
Yeah, from previous conversations, it's clear that payments, which you mentioned, is up there, in terms of sectors of interest. Another one that seems to be coming up is sustainability. I know you're an investor in Lumitics as well, which deals with food waste in hospitality. So that's another sector that's kind of a breakout sector during COVID.
Yeah. And Lumitics, I think you solve a problem for one instance, and that was particularly built around buffets. Right? So they've had to pivot a little because there's no buffets anymore. But some of the other standouts from COVID, for me, the QR code, which was pretty well entrenched in Asia, is just now so ubiquitous. it's a bit mind-blowing, right? That it was so quick,
Yeah.
and what that fuels. So again, around payments, it's not to harp on a theme, but anything around, well, digitization of that whole payment journey,
Right.
and card-linked loyalty, buy now, pay later, or installment payments. There was an interesting piece of information out, or a bit of research out, from Macquarie Bank in Australia yesterday around buy now, pay later, which was particularly interesting for me because it talked about the loyalty of buy now, pay later platforms. And it showed that consumers are not necessarily loyal to the platform. They will be in a retailer or online, and they'll look to whatever payment. If their preferred payment method isn't available, they'll look to an alternative one. So they won't change stores. They'll just change payment methods. So as these elements start to mature, we will see linkages start to form about where payments can evolve as to where they provide a platform opportunity. So that these things are still maturing.
Okay, now let's talk about talents, which is the third pillar of our roadshow this episode. I know it's a subject close to your heart, right? And Future Now Ventures gain is hospitalities, and they've gained you and we've lost you, but the industry has lost masses of experience and knowledge, right? How can it ever be appealing again to talent when it's so in macro shock right now?
I mean, this is a point in time, right? The hospitality industry will go through ebbs and flows and highs and lows. I think the difference for me in looking outside of hospitality, it's a little bit more transactional, whereas hospitality is emotional, right? So people, yes, will have left hospitality, and that it may be for a little while, it may be for a longer while, but I think hospitality will always be attractive as an industry because of that emotive factor. But also, it's such a broad industry, right? So broad, and so many different functions. You remember when we did Turn, and we asked some of the students, what is hospitality to you? And they talk about the roles they can see, right? Whereas there's all the roles behind the scene. And if you start with that emotive element, that hospitality is so attractive because it is a very emotional industry, but then it can provide you with a whole range of roles throughout your career. I don't have any doubt it will be appealing, for many people.
Right. And now that you're, in a team of 10, and you're definitely meeting a lot of startups, right? So you really, it's not completely new, but you are meeting a new crowd of people, right?
Yeah.
And so what do you think corporates in travel maybe have to do to appeal to this new generation of talent who may, I know I'm generalizing, but who may want to seek more purpose than profit at this time?
I mean, I'm pretty early at the moment outside of hospitality, right? If it's, just less than 6 months. But there's two experiences that come to mind. We've just recruited a new analyst in Future Now Capital. So she came out of JP Morgan. And I say, well, okay, how does someone that's a small, startup fund, 10 people, attract someone out of JP Morgan? And it's a great interview process, really trying to understand why they want to move. And the theme that kept coming through is two things. One, that they wanted to have impact. And two, that they actually wanted to be involved in the whole process. So sometimes, in very, very big corporates, you might be pigeonholed into one job. Whereas what I see, this new generation of talent are wanting to understand the whole of the journey, whether that's the whole of an investment journey. So you see the company that's acquired, or the market research that's done, and then what happens to the company afterwards. It's the same in hospitality. They want to know where the guests come from, how they treat the guest, and what the guest is like once they leave. And the other is, I mean, you said it, it's about impact. So I've been asked so many questions because of my finance background. How do you actually make an impact in the world other than just making money? Right. And that's a question we're all going to have to learn to answer in a very genuine way. in order to attract young people.
All right, so I'm going to wrap up with some rapid fire. The thing you miss most about your old life?
Well, I'm still in touch with so many people. I'm back at WiT, right? This was part of my old life. So I still interact with a lot of the people in my old life, if you want to put it that way. So I don't really miss anything. It's, you look forward.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna skip the second question then. The thing you love most about your new life?
The opportunity to learn different things, right? I have some of the skills that are required in my new job, but a lot of the skills I'm still learning, and it's fantastic still to be learning. Yeah.
Okay, wait. We have a question from the audience, so I'm just going to sidetrack here. Is there an absence of tech development in any areas that you think need more focus? And you have to be really quick with this question. What key area do we need more tech development in?
I think people talk a lot about data and analytics, but we have a lot of people saying they are good at data and analytics, but we're not seeing the outcomes necessarily from it. So I would say, great data analysts and what comes out of that. Yeah.
Okay. Final question. The thing you want to say to those who have lost their travel jobs due to COVID, very briefly.
I'd be really surprised if people who were in travel and lost their job haven't got another job already. I'd be surprised because it's a fantastic training ground. But, to be honest, travel will be back and hospitality. You won't have to wait so long. And so just hang in there.
Thank you. Thank you, Louise. We miss you in hospitality, but as you say,
My
our
pleasure.
worlds are colliding.
That's
our
right.
worlds are colliding due to tech. So I'm sure we'll continue to see lots of you in our world. Thank you, Louise.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thanks very much, Hoon.
Thank you, Louise.